Welcome to the hobby with Cage.
That's it. Welcome to the hobby with Cage. See what I just did there? It was like 3 seconds. That way, I have intro music. I have somebody saying, "Welcome to the hobby with Cage." It's not 30 seconds. I love the comments. I got DMs. It's like, "Hey, if we only get 5 minutes, I can't have a 30-second intro waiting for you to start talking." So I'm gonna have to figure out what to do here. Push the buttons early, push the buttons late, and I just stop right there. Welcome to the hobby with Cage. Done. 3-second intro. You gotta love it. Well, weekend edition of Hobby with Cage, brought to you by Arena Club and Bleeper Trading. The countdown to the National begins. Late last night, I got my media credentials accepted for the National. I'm excited for that. Probably gonna have an interview this coming week with the team that runs the National. Got some fun questions for them. It's always great to sit down and chat with those guys and see what people who are going to the National can expect this year. Getting excited for that trip myself. Already starting to set aside what cards I'm going to bring, what cards I might not bring. Maybe make a deal or two with people ahead of time. Looking over the PSA pricing. Is there a card I might pay the $400 for to do the look over, the crossover see if it's going to cross over first? On-site grading just brings an entirely new, a whole different aspect to a show. That's one of my favorite parts about the National. We'll go from there. We'll figure that one out. So fun stuff ahead. Where my brain is this morning. It's a fun one, guys. I've over the last couple of years, I've moved in and out of a lot of cards. I don't know if that makes me less of a collector. I still have plenty of cards. I moved in and out of a lot of cards, and I've purchased a lot of different things. I like to be diversified. We talked about diversifying your assets. I mean, yes, this old man here who will be 50 next year has some Bitcoin and has been buying it for a while. And there are plenty of hobby people who I've had conversations with about that. um, a lot of stocks. And what's funny is I find myself being, let's call it a contrarian player, if that works, right? I think, what I would say is my style would be trying to be contrary to, what everybody's doing. Um, I don't know whether it pays off, doesn't pay off, but it's just kind of where I like, it's like we talked about on Lucas Tigers and Browns, there's a zig where they zag, you know, Andrews to say, try to be where the puck's got to be. I never really got that because he didn't really know hockey. But I find myself trying to buy stocks that are kind of beat up, but I think they have the ability to turn around. I've never been a momentum player. I've never been somebody who, once a stock picks up, you jump on it and ride the momentum. I've always been more of a fundamentals kind of guy. When the PE looks good, when the stock's beat up too much, I always was like, all right, that one's going to turn around. And the funny part about it is that doesn't translate to the hobby. It doesn't. It really doesn't at all. But there are lessons you can learn from it, right? So I've eased up on it a little bit, and I've started to become more of a momentum player. But I try to buy momentum stocks when they're beat down, whether it's part of an overall beat down in the market or, um, whether it's an individual beat down. Like, for example, when Liberation Day happened in early April and all the stocks kind of took a beating, I didn't go in and dumpster dive for, one of my traditional old man plays like a Verizon or a Pfizer. No, that was when I took an opportunity to buy Nvidia. I've talked about this a couple of times, and I bought a lot of it, and it was in the 80s, and now it's like 160 a couple months later because it's a momentum play that you found kind of beaten up. The hobby's interesting, right? There are momentum plays right now, but I can't get myself to jump in on a momentum play while it's going like this. I can't. And it really has impacted, my buying over the last couple of months. That momentum allowed me to sell some stuff at what prices that I thought were really, really good. But trying to go back in the market, I find myself real hesitant to jump back into the water on a momentum play that has done this, that has just gone like that. And It's very possible it continues like this, but history, what I like to learn from history, says it won't. Soccer I use as a great example, right? Because if you look back, people don't like to look at 2022 and 2023 comps because there's a lot of other crazy stuff going on there. But if you look at comps back leading up to the World Cup last time, 4 years ago, 2022, you'll see that even the crazy prices that people are paying for folks like Ronaldo and Messi now, their cards were significantly higher. But if you look at the charts thereafter, World Cup's done, people aren't paying attention anymore. Boom, you get a little drop off. And it's an interesting thing to watch. It's an interesting thing to watch as, the momentum plays that may not have fundamentals behind them. It's just okay, people are buying Messi and Ronaldo. I'll go run and buy Messi or Ronaldo. Oh, really? I'll buy for the next highest price, next highest price, next highest price. And you see the price go up and it doesn't really have the fundamentals behind it. When when the driver is done, when the momentum, falls out, when that World Cup ends and the supply starts to hit, man, you see the crash. You see that happen. And, I compare it to like, I talk about Jalen Hurts or I talk about anybody else who, people are gambling on to win a Super Bowl and SGA is another great example. Oh, he's going to win. He's going to win. He's going to win. And everybody kind of stockpiles it for some event to happen, right? Everybody's, hoarding their soccer cards right now. They're hoarding their Messi and Ronaldo, but everybody has the same plan. And it's to bring that supply out and try to maximize the sale when World Cup happens, or bring that supply out when SGA wins his championship and his MVP, bring that supply out when Jalen Hurts wins the Super Bowl. Guess what? If everyone has the same plan, you're all buying, the momentum is carrying the price up. But when that event happens and the supply, everybody decides to sell at the same time, momentum just gets killed. It's like letting the air out of a balloon, and you see what happens when the air comes out of that hot air balloon. It's just gonna go straight down. And I've seen it happen, many, many times. And it's easier said than done because you sell cards, you have money, you want to get back in, you're missing a piece. I don't have a big Messi card right now and I want to buy one, but the prices are crazy. I want to buy a Ronaldo card. Why? Because I'm also being swept up in that whole momentum play, that whole, watching prices go up, go up, go up. And I'm like, I need to get one. I'm not going to get one. I'm not going to. I've decided I'm stepping out of that and I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait for the momentum to pass. I'm going to wait for the event to happen. Both Messi and Ronaldo can't win the World Cup next year. As a matter of fact, it's very possible that neither of them win the World Cup next year. And, you know, their careers are kind of tailing off. And maybe Yamal doesn't win, and maybe I don't know what happens. But this is just soccer. It's not. You can apply this to almost anything when the card prices are running the way that they are. When you see things run too far too fast, you get an emotional kind of like, oh, I got to go get one of those. Hell, I've been asking around about some kabooms. Why? Because everyone is. And that is the emotion of the consumer. And that is one of those things you get caught up in. And I decided last night, after a whole bunch of messages and a whole bunch of hobby conversations, which are important, you got to have a circle of people to talk to. Or if you don't, that's what I'm here for. Play the 5 minutes of Cage that are already 9 minutes. This is a hobby conversation. It's one-sided. I'm the only one talking, but you are listening, I hope. And then we can continue that conversation over DMs, which dozens of people send me DMs about the episode and say, hey, I was listening to that. I have a question. And then we continue the conversation over Instagram. What you got to do, I believe, is try to steer clear of that crazy momentum, because it's very possible that you can ride it up. It's very possible. I'm not going to tell you you can't make money on it. I'm going to tell you you can't buy a card right now for a couple $1,000s and sell it and make a few $100, a couple months from now while momentum is still strong. It's hard. It's not impossible, but it's hard to do that. You got to time it, timing, luck, you name it, the whole deal. I think the better thing is to try to look where people might not be looking, and not because something's beat up. Because in the hobby, it's very hard to get that back. Very hard to get that back. You got to get real, real lucky with that. I was looking, as a Yankee fan, I was looking at Anthony Volpe cards, and no one's buying them now. New York has turned on him. He is obviously not going to be Derek Jeter. He's not going to be, one of the young great shortstops. He's not turning into Bobby Witt just yet. You know what I mean? And he may never. Um, and New York's given up on him. I saw, Phil Mike even say, this week in a little bit of content, like, I sad, but you got to take your L, and I'm going to start dumping my Volpe cards. It's hard to get it back, right? Like, I'm not telling you go dumpster diving for, cheap Anthony Volpe cards, and, crossing your fingers and praying that he, turns it around and is great. But there are other players out there like that. I mean, I can give a bunch of examples, but there are other players out there like that may not have had, the greatest season. Not that they're terrible. They're young, and you might be able to buy those cards if it's somebody you like. Jackson Holiday, for example, who just really stunk it up last year. But he's having a good season this year, and he's really, really young. And maybe people have given up on him. And, that's an area where momentum has not, been a straight shot to the moon on those cards. If that's someone you're a fan of, if you're a fan of that team, if baseball's your sport, there are areas like that where, I think there's still places you can invest, you can collect, you can put your money in, and maybe, find your way through this crazy maze of the hobby that we currently have right now. Anyway, that's just where my brain is today, kind of all over the place. But I hope you enjoy it, because I'm sure there are other people out there thinking like this. Maybe not so much about soccer. I just use that as a great microcosm for the overall hobby, because it's a very tiny little corner. There's only a few people that people buy, and it has this event coming. It has the Club World Cup final, which is actually today, and it has the World Cup final, and just you still have all these superstars kind of carrying it, and it's just an easy thing to kind of use as an example for for the bigger space. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this one today. The what I'm buying, I give you a hint about it today, but we'll see. You guys can kind of guess, but I'm definitely not. I'm not stepping aside. I'm researching. I find little pockets of where I think I can put my money in and still have some fun. Um, and I hope you guys are too. That was another fun 5 minutes. That's almost 13 minutes. Brought to you by Bleecker Trading and Arena Club. And guys, if you're going to National, let me know. I'd like to say hello. Talk to you soon. Ooh, hold on.
Thank you for listening to The Hobby with Cage.
There you go. Thank you for listening. Talk to you soon.